Hello. I've been asked to do a piece on chronic anxiety, and I thought that I'd address this issue. I'm doing this video in the middle of the day, so there's going to be vibrations of trucks and vehicles, but it's probably better than when I'm normally stuck in the cupboard. Welcome everybody, and I hope that you are all well. I hope you've had a great weekend, and I thank you for joining me. Chronic anxiety, we are an animal, we're an evolved animal, and we are a herd animal, so we thrive in productive social structure. So not all social structure, but productive, effective social structure. We are at our best. So it's important to keep this in mind. And as an animal, we go in and out of mental health, all of us, depending on whether we're feeling really content or highly agitated. It's a health spectrum. So before I go on to talk about a couple of techniques with anxiety, I'll just qualify. If you feel chronic anxiety or highly anxious, it's important that you go and see a professional. Just like if you've got a hole in your tooth, you can't feel it yourself. You need to go and see a professional. So with mental health, you can have a cold, which you may be able to get through, but if you have the flu or a stronger cold, you need to go and ask a doctor. And the value of videos is that they can be a supportive therapy. That means it can support other therapy rather than being a diagnosis or resolution. It's supporting as part of a complete resolution. So first point is go and see a professional. Because we're highly tuned, we're like computers, and as such, we have programs built into us. One of them is the fight or flight program. So we are built to react to perceived, real or perceived danger. Notice I say real or perceived danger. Sometimes we perceive danger where there isn't any danger, but our body still reacts in the same way. Especially these days, we don't have the situation so much that we have big wild bears or lions attacking us. We just imagine that we have big wild bears or lions attacking us. So a big wild bear or a lion could be a relationship issue, an issue involving loss, an issue involving judgment. Now, another point to understand is there is the trigger, the danger, real or perceived, and then there is our body's response to that danger. Trigger and response. We can learn over time to adjust our response to danger. As animals, when we perceive danger, we can turn on the fight or flight response, which is the production of adrenaline, the desire, the instinctive desire to breathe through your mouth, so that you can suddenly recruit speed and strength in order to fight or run away. But if you don't need to fight that big, scary lion, you still have the production of adrenaline and other hormonal responses that get us all hepped up, but may not be necessary. So once you're all energized and agitated and ready to fight or flight, you are not in a state that you can think clearly, because the body doesn't think that's important. The body thinks run or fight the aggressor. When we are highly agitated, we are not able to think rationally because our animal is looking at the danger. So, for example, if you have a situation of road rage, or someone judges you and you feel that full-on adrenaline response that causes anxiety, it's a very strong adrenaline response and not helpful to sort of think, hang on, let's have some perspective here. How do we deal with this? Practice, self-awareness, mental health. Now, mental health doesn't mean that you are trying to stop yourself being crazy. Mental health is something that we go in and out of. Mental well-being, the ability to perceive a situation as it is without catastrophizing, without taking out of proportion, to see the complexity of an issue without going, this is terrible, I can't handle this, I will never get over this. There may be elements of an issue that are difficult to cope with. You may take time to get through an issue. It's not awful or terrible most of the time. Watch the words you use. Be careful of the words you choose to use. Be careful that you steer away from catastrophic terms. Terrible, unbearable, awful. Stay aware. Now, I'll look at some generalized techniques to look at anxiety. Remember, see a professional. You need that one-on-one when they're in front of you to really work out what suits you. This is supportive therapy. I want you to sit down or lie down while you listen to me so that you're safe. An effective response to a trigger is to consider your breathing. That is, if there isn't a real lion or tiger there, if there isn't a real physical danger, then you can look at this response. If there's a real physical danger, you need to get the broccoli out of there. Run. So then the fight-flight response is appropriate. So one of the responses is to look at breath and consider your patterns of breath. So either lying down or sitting down, lengthen the spine. Lengthen the spine, draw the shoulders round and down, lift through the neck, and open up the area from the top of the hip bones to the base of the rib cage. So that's nice and open and your spine is long and your abdominals are pulled in. And just take your awareness to your breathing and just notice your breathing. Notice the pattern of breath. And when you notice the pattern of breath, just gently slow that breathing down. So breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, and slow your pattern of breathing down. When you notice your breathing, it's about noticing your breathing in a relaxed manner. A lot of the techniques that teach breathing to relax may influence you to be stressed about your breathing. Any breathing is about no expectation. It's not about worrying or thinking that you've got to breathe in a certain way. It's about relaxing and slowing your breathing down. So breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. If you are highly anxious, this is going to be not so straightforward to do. And remember, that is the time to see a professional. In those situations where the anxiety is not high or agitated, you can just try to start with breathing slowly through the nose. And consider the pattern of breath. Imagine yourself watching the breath. It's now very windy outside. I can see the trees swaying, which is quite beautiful. Imagine that you are using your complete lung capacity to do this. So breathing using your complete lung capacity from the top of your lungs right down to the bottom of your lungs. Now, as you do the observed breathing, or the breathing where you observe your pattern of breath, one by one work through the body and consider that the entire body is relaxed. So you focus on breath and then take that to one limb. Then focus on breath and take it to another limb. Focus on breath, take it to another limb. So you would work on face, relax the face, relax the shoulders one at a time, the limbs, and work through the body slowly. That's one method. Another method is to breathe and hold your breath on the inhale. Now you can hold your breath for 1 to 3 counts. Now, a disclaimer here, if you're highly stressed or this is difficult, don't do it. Don't do it. Just do what is comfortable and gives you a sense of peace and contentment. So you may want to breathe in, hold for 1, 2 to 3 breaths, and then exhale. As you do that, that has several benefits. It slows down the breathing, it brings your awareness back to the breath, and it's calming if it is not difficult for you. Another form of breathing is as you breathe to count down from 10. So you breathe slowly in through the nose and out through the nose, and you count down from 10 in your mind. And as you count down, you are the witness seeing yourself relax. The reason I like the countdown from 10 is you could be in a difficult situation. So I might have heard some news that's difficult, or the children are being highly energized, and I'll take a space in another room and just go breathe, count down from 10. So it's very user-friendly. It may or may not suit the situation at hand. I think it's a good idea to have some short-term solutions and some long-term solutions. These are short-term. So the 3 types of breath that I just talked about, the simple inhale and exhale and looking at the breath. Then we have the breath holding, be careful, and seek a doctor. Holding your breath, you need to know that you're completely well and seek doctor's advice first. The third one is counting down from 10, which is a user-friendly, quick response. Slower responses, you could look at my last video on sleep, looking at your health, looking at the way you use your brain, your consciousness, your cognitive processes, your ability to watch any catastrophizing with the brain, use of words. So be careful of any strong language you use. When I say strong, I mean like generic terms. Don't use the word hate. Try not to use the word awful. Try not to use hopeless, terrible. Most situations aren't hopeless or terrible, most. So it's important that we can describe a situation as it is, as an observer. And when you describe the situation, use times and specific elements. Today, someone I felt was my friend judged me in a way I felt was inappropriate. My response to that was to feel feelings of sadness and concern. When that occurred, that person spoke to others. I felt worried about that person speaking to others. This is the only time this has happened, or whatever the situation. So you're breaking it down to fact by fact by fact, rather than this was terrible. Everybody hates me. This is hopeless. I have no friends. What that does is it teaches the brain to simplify a complex situation, and it teaches the brain to have a less rational approach to that situation. To be rational, we need to observe the situation from afar in time and space. Okay, this has occurred once in 5 years or whatever. And if you want to be happy, the pathway to happiness is to observe in perspective with a relaxed response. The fight or flight response is not a relaxed response. It's for bears and lions. Other processes you can look at is your health, what you're eating, your sleeping habits, in order to address anxiety. It's important to really demarcate and know that there is the trigger and then there's a response. And it's hard for some people to get their head around this, but we actually do choose our response. It may be learned, so we've chosen it over time, but we do choose it. So we can unchoose it. Over time, like you teach a lab rat or a dog how to sit, over time you rewrite your response to danger. Now, you always want to have an awareness with danger. You want to be able to unpack it and process it. So you want to be able to think, process. But one of the things the brain can do is, if you have an issue, the brain goes into a cycle of thinking and then thinking, and it speeds up like a treadmill that you can't jump off or you fall. It's important to be aware that the brain does that. So the key to happiness, the key to contentment, the key to problem resolution is the ability to slow our brain down, to be able to look at one thought, process and put it away, and to have a break from thinking. Now, one of the ways to have a break from thinking is to be in the moment, to be completely be in the moment. So when you have a shower, you shut the shower screen or the door or the bathroom door, and that's it. You focus on the water, you focus on the experience, so that it gives your brain a break. Then you can go back and resolve and look with greater perspective. Give your brain a break and learn to point your brain or your consciousness at one issue at a time. In that mix, the internet, Facebook, all the social media, all of it, it has its uses, but it teaches the brain to overthink because there's too much information for the way our brain processes. Give yourself a structured break from Facebook and consider before you go on Facebook why you're going on. Because every 10 posts or so there is a negative post, and that would trigger a negative response. A picture that inspires negative feelings will inspire negative feelings. So consider where you're pointing your mind and why. If you've had a difficult experience, you need to put your consciousness to bed, or take care of it as you would a young child that has a cold. Walks, good food, wholesome food. Choose your friends carefully. Choose your support system. Meditate with as little stimulation as possible. Breathe. Be aware of your physical self. All these techniques can work, and it's a matter of practicing, learning how to feel contentment, and we can learn. I'm a really big proponent on looking at how we use language. What words do we choose to use and what thoughts do these words promote. I would like to take the word hate out of our dictionary, probably the word hopeless as well, because if we say it's hopeless, it is hopeless. And there's always hope. There's always hope. So that gives you a few ideas. Excuse the poor audio, but I wanted to reach out to this particular person that sent me a letter. Remember, it starts with breath and awareness and your ability to seek professional advice. Practice the breathing each day and learn to look down upon it. I'm a really big one on journaling as well. Writing things down so you're aware of the positives and negatives, and each day I write down where my mood is. And there's a lot of triggers in my life that would incite someone to agitation with 4 children and all those dynamics. So it's a matter I have to keep checking myself. Look at your physical self and open up your alignment. Take time for yourself. Watch stimulus. Be careful of stimulus. Sugary foods, bright lights, colours, crowds. I'm not saying don't go into crowds. Just be careful of stimulus. Look after yourself because you are so valuable, and you have infinite worth. So I've gone over some of the techniques for generalized anxiety. Look after yourself, be sensible, take care, and be well.